it'll be available to us all to look at after the event. Okay, I'm going to get going with a few introductions first of all. I hope you can all see me. My name is Emma May. I'm the one talking at the moment, obviously, and I'm also the person with two paintings behind my head, just so you can identify me on a screen of crowded people. I work at Work Avenue, and my job title at Work Avenue is Director of Operations and Employment. And what that means is that I'm responsible in part for helping to run Work Avenue, the organisation, and I also head up all our services that help people earn a living by getting a job. So all of our services to support job seekers come under my control and remit. Obviously volunteering your way into employment is one pretty good way of being able to help with to facilitate a job search. I'm going to hand over to my colleague and my friend Nikki Goldman, and she will introduce herself and also her colleagues as well at JVN, Jewish Volunteering Network.
Thank you, Emma, and hello everybody and welcome. Nice to see you on this chilly day. JVN, the Jewish Volunteering Network, as I'm sure many of you know, connects volunteers to volunteering opportunities in charities, both in the Jewish community and in the wider charitable sector. And we work to support volunteer managers who work in those charities to help them with efficient and effective volunteer management in those charities. And I'm delighted to be joined here by Josh Kleiman, who is my colleague. Josh, do you want to quickly introduce yourself?
Hi everyone, I'm Josh. I'm the Volunteer Projects and Communications Coordinator at JVN. So I work with the charities and the volunteers.
Thank you, Josh. I don't think I actually said I'm the Chief Exec of JVN. I've been in post since January 2019. So I will speak a bit later, so handing back to you, Emma.
Okay, so that's us introduced. We're in some strange times. We don't need to go over that all again. We're all bombarded daily by all the issues and the fallout that we have from COVID and the virus and the lockdown. And we're seeing it played out now in a very, very material and real and very, very upsetting sense through a real increase in redundancies that are happening. You know, at Work Avenue, we're seeing this daily, where people are coming to us because they've lost their job as a result of the virus. There's a very material and profound sense that there's now a very practical fallout from that as well. But even if that's not the case, very often people are looking to go back to work. They haven't lost their jobs through the virus, but nevertheless, they're still looking to go back to work one way or another, perhaps after a break of working, perhaps they've never worked before. And the reason we run this particular webinar, Volunteering Your Way into Employment, and we are so grateful to be working with our colleagues at JVN working with Work Avenue, is because the interface of where volunteering and getting a job is so strong is that you really can volunteer your way into employment. Now, I wish I could say that, you know, come on this webinar, take up a volunteering job, and 2 months from now, you'll be in employment. It will just happen like that. Clearly, life isn't quite as straightforward as that. But we're going to talk to you this afternoon about just how that can happen, how it absolutely is possible to volunteer your way into employment, to take up volunteering, all the positives that gives you from so many perspectives, one of which is getting you closer to the job that you're after. And that's really what we're going to talk to you about this afternoon. I should add that this particular webinar we ran for the first time a few months ago. The reason we're running it again is precisely for that reason. It really was extremely popular last time, we just wanted to let more people have an opportunity to engage with this, to work out exactly the whys and hows of volunteering. So that's why we're running it again. I know I can see some of you are, for want of a better phrase, repeat offenders. So to you, I extend a particularly warm welcome coming back again. I hope there'll be something new to take away, a new tidbit of information that you didn't take from before. And I hope that you all leave this afternoon, an hour from now, a little bit inspired, a little bit motivated, a little bit focused, with a little bit of self-belief that perhaps this pathway is one that could lead to something material for you moving forward. Nikki, I think we're going to turn to our top tips basically now, aren't we? So should I?
Yes, would you mind sharing your screen, Emma?
That is exactly what I'm going to do.
Lovely. Thank you very much. It's a skill that I still have yet to acquire, something on my to-do list. So we JVN together with Work Avenue have put together some top tips that we would suggest might help if you are thinking about using this route into employment, the route of volunteering. It could be you're thinking of volunteering anyway, but it could be that this is a very specific direction in which you want to go. So these are JVN and Work Avenue's thoughts on how to do that. The first way, and the first and most important thing in my view, is to choose a charity you believe in. Because if you want to find a role at that charity, you want to be at a place that you have some passion or identification with. It's really important if you're working in a charity or volunteering in a charity that you identify with the cause, because that's going to make you want to contribute in the best way that you can. So that really is the number one thing. And the point third bullet point on that, about treating the application to volunteer like an application for paid employment. That's really important, because if you want to be really putting your all into this organisation, this charity, then you want to make sure that the application to volunteer is taken really, really seriously. And almost every charity will have its own application form that you will need to apply to. The second area is identifying your strengths and the skills you can share. And it's about what you can bring to the organisation. We've said it's more important than what you take from it. I think it is, in the sense that, you know, volunteering is about giving to an organisation, but equally, we want you to be able to get something out of it as well. We all know that when we volunteer, we get as much out of it as what we put in. But here is about the strengths and skills. So it's about identifying them in the same way that you would for a job application as well. What are the skills that I have that I can bring to this organisation? And then listing the skills that you'd like to acquire or improve, because it's absolutely fine to go in and to want to get something out of it too, in terms of that. Then the suggestion is to check if a role that suits you exists at your chosen charity. So obviously the JVN website is a great way, and we'll share the details afterwards, for you to actually check the charity that interests you and whether they currently have a volunteering opportunity. If you don't find anything there, then you're very welcome to be in touch with us, and we can help approach your chosen charity and see if there is anything that might be suitable. So if not, you could email them to us directly. You can obviously always go to the charity directly. The benefit of JVN is that you see a whole range of opportunities that are available all at the same time. And again, to personalise it. So make sure you know who you're approaching, rather than just a dear sir or madam, or dear HR. Then if you get as far as interview, I think it's really important to let people know that you're keen to use this opportunity as part of searching for a job. I think it's absolutely fine to say that. We had a situation last year where somebody came to us and she was really, really clear that she was looking for an opportunity in fundraising, and she wanted to volunteer with us to help with our brochure for our event last year in order to gain those skills and to help her towards employment. And I was absolutely comfortable with that. And I think why not be upfront? There's no reason why not. So obviously to include the skills you're offering and those you'd like to learn or improve. And you should be asked what you want from the role. And what's really important in any case, job or voluntary opportunity, is to establish expectations on both sides from the outset in order for it to be able to work well. Emma, would you like to change the next slide, please?
Yes, I hope I can.
So a few other tips. You could ask to do a taster session. You could monitor your goals throughout the course of your volunteering to check that they're being achieved. You should regularly check the organisation's website to see if any paid work is being offered. Obviously, that depends on the size of the organisation. That's probably more a Jewish Care than a Together plan. Because if you volunteer at the Together plan, you would know if something paid would come up. So it depends on the size of the organisation for that particular point. Also, at the same time, to look at websites of other organisations and companies to see if any jobs that come up that match the skills you've acquired. Obviously, there might be other organisations that you will be interested in, and to remember the obvious point that skills are transferable, but sometimes it's not so obvious, so it's better to say it. I think it's really important that volunteering is something you enjoy. As I said earlier, you need to be passionate and motivated to volunteer in order to give at your best. Can we go back to the other slide?
The previous one?
No, the next one.
Oh, the next one, sorry. I'm sorry, I do beg your pardon. Sorry about that, everyone.
That's okay, that's okay. You can tell it's live. So volunteering has to be something you enjoy. I know when I do volunteer and when I've volunteered in the past, it's the things that I'm not enjoying so much that I actually don't put a tremendous amount of energy into. But particularly if you're looking for a job, that energy needs to be high, and Emma's going to talk about that more later on. And something, the final point on this slide, I feel really strongly about, that experience gained, particularly if it's your most recent experience, can go right to the top of your CV to close the skills gap and demonstrate your fit for other roles. It shows that even if you're not working, you are doing something really positive to either volunteer your way into employment, but also do something to contribute to society, and particularly at the moment when the needs are so great. So I think that's really important.
Can I endorse that as well? From an employment perspective, I completely endorse that. So it's not just Nikki's view, it's my view too.
Excellent. So I will leave it there. Those are a number of top tips to share with you, and obviously we will be happy to answer questions later on in the webinar. Back to you, Emma.
So I'm going to stop the share at that point. Before we move on to the next part of what we're going to talk about this afternoon, one little point that I do want to get, everything that Nikki said was so true, and absolutely we completely endorse the message at Work Avenue as well. It's exactly the same message, and so often we encourage clients to volunteer as part of their job search. Our experience is that clients are often quite affronted when they feel that in order to get a voluntary position, they have to go through what feels like a recruitment process to get it. What, you mean I'm going to have to submit my CV? What, they might want to interview me? Because I think very often the perception of people is that they should be biting my hand off for me to give my services to them for nothing. Why don't they just want me without having to go through this whole procedure? I feel that, I understand that, but I would also say that you will, if you treat getting a volunteering job just like getting paid employment, your head will be in a better place for it. You will be focused in a much better way. And particularly when it comes to thinking about volunteering your way into employment, in other words, using your voluntary role as a stepping stone, as a conduit towards getting paid work. I think it's really important that you do think of it through the principle of the submission of your CV. So your CV has got to look good, through the fact that you may have to be interviewed to understand how well, you know, you're going to fit the demands of the organization and the role in question. So actually, I would say to you, don't feel affronted, don't feel overwhelmed. If you do feel that you have to go through something that is akin to a recruitment process to get a volunteering role, take it as a positive, and take it also as the learning opportunity that it is, to prepare yourself for the paid role that you're working towards in so doing. Now, I should have said, if anyone has any questions, please, you know, you use the chat facility. We've all done so many Zooms since the lockdown started in March, that we're all quite familiar, I hope, with the principles and practice of Zoom. So if you have a question at any point, I would say to you, I'm going to be checking the chat all the time, and I would say to you, please ask your question in the chat at the point you feel it's relevant, and at that point I'll be able to either take your question from the chat, or Nikki will, or we'll unmute you, and you'll be able to actually ask your question in practice. So you know, the chances are, if something is, you know, raises a question in your mind, it's also raising the same question in someone else's mind. So please don't feel shy. It's absolutely okay to ask questions. In fact, I would say we thrive on the fact that you will ask us questions. Just ask your questions, challenge us, talk to us, engage with us. It's much better when you do. That would be super. Okay, now the next stage of our webinar this afternoon is an interesting one. I've hosted many webinars, and I would also say to you that I love my job. My job is as director, as I said at the beginning, I'm Director of Operations and Employment at Work Avenue. I absolutely love my job, and I love my job. One of the reasons I love it is because I focus all the time on other people, our clients, Work Avenue, what is right for the organization, what is right for our clients, putting in place initiatives and programs and events to help our clients into work. I'm focusing all the time on someone else. What I'm going to do now is focus on myself. And the reason I'm going to do that is because at a point in my own personal working history, I actually did volunteer my way into employment. So I am the living embodiment of volunteering my way into work. And I feel for that reason, I hope you'll bear with me and listen to my own story, because I'm nothing special, no one special, with no particular qualifications or anything else, but I had a working life. And that working life at some point came to an end. I came to a crossroads, and I needed to think what to do next and how to do it next. So I'm going to take you back very briefly to my background. I have a degree. I have a law degree. I was going to work in the law. I chose not to. I thought it was boring. I worked instead in HR management for the first 10 years of my working life. I liked my job in HR. I had two jobs in HR, one in the public sector, one in the private sector. I really enjoyed them both. I was a big enthusiast of both my jobs. And I transitioned my career after a decade to harness particular skills that I gained in psychometric assessment. Some of you may have been involved in psychometric assessment. It's about personality questionnaires and ability tests. You might even have had to do them as part of a job application. And I went to work for a consultant. I'd use them as an HR professional, and I went to work in an HR consultancy, and I did that for another 10 years of my life. And then what happened in 2007 was that I lost my job in the HR consultancy, in the psychometric assessment consultancy. And I lost my job because the company I worked for was acquired by an American company. And not to be prejudiced against Americans, but I really couldn't stand working for them or with them. Now, I hope there are no Americans on here who I've offended by that. If I do, clearly it's not personal, I apologize. I didn't, and I was out of a job anyway, and it was just all too much. And that was the end of my working life. I had no job to go to. And I found that quite a challenge. I'd worked all my life. I wanted to work. I needed to work. And suddenly I wasn't working. I had to take stock. This was 2007. I had to take stock of the skills I had in particular. Just as Nikki said, think about the skills that you have. And I'd had an HR background and I'd had a psychometric assessment background. So I thought about that. And of course, being part of the Jewish community is the most wonderful thing, because we have the most incredible networks within our community, and we have the most incredible not-for-profit charitable infrastructure. Believe me, within our community, there is a charity that will address virtually every aspect of human existence and human life. I don't know that we're too big on donkey sanctuary charities, but maybe we are. Maybe there's a Jewish donkey sanctuary charity out there. I don't know. But I knew that those skills I had were in HR, were in psychometric assessment, and I'd heard about a charity called Resource, which some of you probably know as well. And it kind of does what we do at Work Avenue. So I reached out to them and said, I had no idea how they operated or anything else, but I thought, well, there's only one way to find out, and that's to ask. Exactly as Nikki said, reach out, ask them. And I thought I could make a difference, so I approached them. And we started to have a conversation, and I started to volunteer for them. Now, what that volunteering meant was that I was doing one morning a week. So if you think about it, that's a 1/10 of a working week. But I was volunteering for them. I was helping clients think about their job search. I'd worked in HR. I kind of knew a bit about that with my psychometric background. In other words, I was playing to my strengths. I knew what skills I had. I knew what experience I had. I also, and again, to Nikki's point, I knew where my passions were. Now, clearly, I'm not necessarily talking about my life passions, but I'm talking about my employment passions. There is an absolute adage, which is, we're good at what we love, and we love what we're good at. So don't try and be somebody you're not, but try and be the very finest version of yourself. Think about you, your skills, your experience, your working passions and preferences, and find a pathway to the charity, to the organisation that can help you in that field. And that's just what I did. I gained so many skills along the way, and I also gained so many networks along the way. Now, my volunteering didn't actually stop there. I'd been used to working pretty much full time, and suddenly I was volunteering one morning a week. It wasn't quite enough for me, and it hadn't taken me to paid employment yet. In 2009, 2 years later, I applied to become a magistrate as well. Here I am saying the Jewish community can offer so much to us all, and it can, but there's absolutely no reason why we have to restrict ourselves to the Jewish community. There is a huge wide world out there from a volunteering perspective, from an employment perspective. So think as broadly as you can, because the broader that you think, the more you can open your mind to the opportunities that might be out there, the more opportunities are available to you. So I applied to become a magistrate, and this enabled me to use more of my skills, think more. I got accepted, and to this day, that was 2009. I have actually now been a magistrate for 11 years. So it's, again, volunteering within, perhaps society might be a better word, not community, but it's still volunteering, and I still love it, and I still gain so much from the work I do as a magistrate in my community, albeit a slightly different community. I still hadn't found paid work, however, and I was getting a bit antsy by this time. I wanted to find paid work. It just wasn't happening, you know. I knew through my networks and my connections, and of course that's one of the main things that happens to you as a volunteer. Yes, you gain skills. Yes, you gain routine. You gain purpose. You gain interest. You also crucially gain new networks. And that is the most fantastic thing you gain. We are, you know, absolutely, the more networks we have, the better we're able to function. And through the networks that I gained through my volunteering at Resource, I learned about this other organisation in the community called, actually we weren't called Work Avenue at the time, we were called Train Trade. Some of you may remember us from those days. We were called Train Trade. It was another organisation kind of doing the same thing as Resource. They didn't work with volunteers like Resource did, they worked with paid staff. Oh, I thought that's interesting. I now have all the skills to do this. So I had no idea how they work, but I thought, well, again, if you don't ask, you don't get. And I reached out to Train Trade, as it was, to the CEO, basically saying, hello, this is me, this is my skills, and this is what I think I can do for you. Now, this is a really, really important point. When we think about working or volunteering, we tend to think about it through our own lens, our own vision. What am I going to get from it? I know I could do that job. We don't think about what we're giving to the employer. And once we turn the whole thing around and think about what we're going to give, either through volunteering, but exactly the same principle applies through paid employment, everything changes. And I addressed my email to the CEO saying, this is what I think I could do for you. This is the skills I've got. This is how I think they could benefit your organization. Now, I may not have got it 100% right in what I offered him in terms of my skills and my vision and what I thought I could offer him. But I'm sure I must have got some of it right because we had a conversation and he picked up the phone and we had a nice chat and yes, I can see that, that's interesting. Really sorry, we've got no vacancies at the moment, no can do, but I'll keep your CV on file and if anything comes up, you know, I'll be in touch. Well, how many times have we all heard that? We all know that's the biggest fob off in the world, if ever I heard one. Thank you, I said, that would be great. And then, literally 3 weeks later, the phone rang and it was the CEO on the phone saying, you're not going to believe this, but one of my colleagues has resigned. I do now have headcount. Let's have another conversation about what you can do. And this is honestly what happened. I was lucky. Someone did resign within a very short window and that opportunity came up. But I did make my luck because I did reach out to him and I did lay out my vision of what I could offer. The luck came that someone just happened to resign at that point. But lucky things do happen. We just have to make them happen a little bit more. And that's what I did. And I have to tell you, I started working at Work Avenue, Train Trade as we were called, in November 2013. So I'm coming up to 7 years with Work Avenue. The job that I started 7 years ago bears virtually no relation to the job that I'm doing today. It's a very, very different organization. My role has changed, what we do has changed. So sometimes don't aim for perfect. Aim for just about good enough. Get your foot in the door. I think that's a really, really important point. And that's what I did. I took the job, even though the role wasn't 100% perfect. The salary at the time certainly wasn't 100% perfect. The hours that I was offered weren't perfect. In fact, very little of it was perfect. But I took it anyway. And within months and months and months, I started to change the role. The opportunity started to change. And now I can honestly say that for the past 4 years, I'm doing exactly the role that I wanted to do in exactly the way I wanted to do it. And I'm like a pig in muck. I couldn't like my job anymore. I'm very fortunate. I made my own luck to a point. Yes, this is true. But you have to. We all have to be utterly responsible for making our own luck, for making our own opportunities, for progressing things. And that is exactly what I did. So before I sort of go back to move on, let me reflect a bit on what I did and how I did it, and how some of the benefits it gave me. I took control, and I think that's a really, really important point to remember. I didn't wait for things to happen to me or for someone to, we all want that to happen. We all want our knight in shining armor to be on his white stallion, charging up to us with the job in his saddlebag, giving it to us. Well, sorry, life doesn't happen like that. Whoever we are, whatever we want to do, we must take control and work out and just make it happen for ourselves. it's not a bad thing to do, actually. It feels very refreshing to be able to take control. It feels energizing. It feels empowering. So don't be scared of taking control and trying to work out what you want to do and how you want to do it. I would also say, do expect to go up a few blind alleys and kiss a few frogs along the way before you find perhaps your perfect volunteering opportunity, and certainly your perfect job. Nikki said that just in her bit. You won't necessarily find your perfect job first time, your perfect volunteering opportunity first time. Don't be deterred. Don't let that put you off. And the same goes for employment. It will take some time, but trust that things are going to work out right in the end. And they will if you take control and make them happen. I would also say that no opportunity is ever wasted. So even if you think you're having a pointless time in a pointless organization and it's not progressing you any further, trust me, it is. You won't know what it is that you're gaining, but you will be gaining invariably skills. You will be gaining positivity. You would just be absorbing stuff that will be useful to you along the way. You will 100% be gaining networks, and who knows where the next opportunity is going to come from. It could be from one of these networks. No person or contact you ever make along the way is wasted. Somebody somehow may be able to help you at some point in the future. You just don't know who, when, how, why, and what. So don't ever think of anything as a waste in the future. And another point I want to make sort of before I move on to the next bit, and there are some questions in the chat which I'll come to in a minute as well, is always think, whether it's a volunteer role or a paid role, always think about what you're giving to the opportunity. Never think about it in terms of what you're taking. Sure, you'll be taking all the things that I've just described to you. But when you think about things in terms of what you're taking, what you're giving to the opportunity. Don't let me get my wires crossed there. Always think about what you're going to be giving to the opportunity, and then you'll be viewing it through the lens of the opportunity of the organisation, and you'll be onto a winner in terms of what you're giving, not what you're taking. Much, much better. You know, everything is a positive. Never think of anything as a waste, because you just don't know when the next opportunity is going to come from. And I just want to sort of close my bit with saying, you know, good luck. And the other thing, I think, my very final point is, sometimes you need to be a little bit brave as well. And you need to step up above the parapet, and that can feel very exposing to people. Our natural instinct is to almost do things very discreetly. We may be Jewish, but we're also British, and we Brits are very understated. We're very discreet. That's how we prefer to operate. We don't want to be out there doing everything noisily, but sometimes you have to be a little bit brave and make that introduction and send that email, and be prepared to stand up and have that conversation and put yourself out there a little bit. And the more you do these things, the greater the likelihood is that something somehow will come home in a very, very positive way for you. And I wish you all very, very much good luck.
Thank you, Emma. Thank you for sharing your personal story. It's not so easy when you're used to managing the webinar to actually share something so personal. So we really appreciate you opening yourself up to this. There is a question in the chat from Jilly that you might like to address before you move on to the next bit.
Yes, Jilly says, if I'm looking for voluntary work and or permanent work in the not-for-profit sector as well as in the commercial sector, how should you show this on LinkedIn? I don't think it matters. LinkedIn, I mean, I'm guessing what you mean by that is at the top you have the your experience is your experience. Your LinkedIn profile is not your CV. I know your situation, Jilly. Obviously, we've spoken about your situation and the specific skills that you have and what you would like to do with those skills. I think we still have a conversation outstanding from a CV perspective, and I haven't forgotten any of those things. What I would say is that your experience on LinkedIn is your experience. People look at LinkedIn, recruitment consultancies and recruitment firms, and job sites look at LinkedIn all the time. So you absolutely want to be as open and as unlocked down as possible on LinkedIn, and certainly open to recruitment sites. However, your LinkedIn profile won't necessarily be verbatim your CV. If you're looking for employment in the private and the not-for-profit sector, as we've probably discussed, and certainly this is a point for everyone, you may need to have two slightly different nuanced CVs to address that. The fact that your working experience hitherto is what it is absolutely fine. People tend to look at LinkedIn, but they don't tend to analyze it so much. They, very often people want to look at LinkedIn to know who you know, to know where you've worked, to see that you're on LinkedIn. And the other thing about LinkedIn is that people tend to buy people. So we are exposed with a headshot. If someone doesn't have a profile picture on LinkedIn, I would very much suggest that you alter that and make sure that you do have a profile picture, a photograph on LinkedIn, because people buy people, people engage with people. But I wouldn't worry so much from a LinkedIn perspective, and from a CV perspective, you'll have two. Happy to talk more offline, but I wouldn't worry so much about it from a LinkedIn perspective. I've had some other questions that two of which are private to me, but if you don't mind, I'm going to address them. Someone has asked how I applied to be a magistrate. So it's slightly off-piste, but not very off-piste. Google apply to be a magistrate and it will come up. Very, very simple. There's a government, a .gov, I think there's a .gov, because it's a Ministry of Justice appointment. So it's a .gov.uk starting point. Basically, you have to apply, and you have to do some court visits. And it was probably, although it was a volunteering position, it was one of the most stringent recruitment processes I've ever been through. So applying for it is not for the faint-hearted, but if you're minded to do it, good luck. But it's all there. And someone else said, I have recently decided to retrain as a TA, a teaching assistant, from an office or an administrative role. And I'm enrolled in an online course and you'd love to volunteer in her son's school. But due to COVID, I believe they're not allowing volunteers on site. How should I approach this? Nikki, this could be one for you. We were talking about just this point about things being quite tough for volunteers in person at the moment.
Yes, it is difficult for people to volunteer in person. There are some, Josh will talk about the sort of adjustments we've had to make in terms of volunteering opportunities. But there may be an opportunity to do something online through the school. I don't know if they've had that thought process of enabling people to be able to do it, but other organisations have. So we've got a piece that Josh will talk about volunteering from home. So what are the online opportunities available now? It is a route to take. There's also another question about volunteering here, Emma, but I think I'll take that after you've done the next bit, because we're running close to time.
Yeah, okay. So we also want to address with you this afternoon what employers look for in transferable skills. So this plays very much to the fact that what you want to use your voluntary work for, and how you can make sure that you gain the skills that you want to gain. Now I had, and obviously this is very much my field, because at Work Avenue we're all for upskilling people and making sure that people are able to, are as fully skilled as possible to be able to do the work they want to do and gain employment. And we work with an awful lot of employers who post vacancies, just as Nikki works with an awful lot of organisations that post volunteering opportunities with them. We work with a huge number of employers who post job vacancies with us, and we fill those vacancies. And it is still happening, by the way, this year. Maybe not quite as much as it was last year, but there are still jobs being filled. And we just posted, since last week, about 10 new jobs on our jobs board. So I'll come to that later, but there are jobs out there. It got me thinking, what do employers look for? And when you distill it down, there is a baseline that says certain skills are really, really important to employers. So if you are applying for a job as a computer programmer, and you need to have C++ programming skills to be able to do the job, and you haven't got C++ programming skills, you're clearly not fit to do the job you've applied for. It's a skill that is absolutely critical to the completion of that job, and you don't have it. So effectively, you're disbarring yourself from being able to do that job. If you want to be a solicitor and you're not a qualified solicitor yet, and you don't have a practicing certificate, you can't practice as a solicitor. There are certain baseline skills, qualifications that are really, really important for certain jobs. However, what is for so many fields of work, fields of employment, what is just as important as the skills, the qualifications, and the experience you have is the attitudes that you bring to the workplace. And this is where the application of volunteering is so important. It is absolutely vital that you come into this with the right attitudes. And actually, if you're a person that displays the right attitudes, very often that masks sometimes any deficiencies that you may sometimes have in the skills field, because people feel, employers feel that attitudes can't be changed and behaviors can't be changed. But if someone doesn't have the right skills, they can be trained. That is very much what employers think. Now, what are those attitudes? Number one on the hit list, I have to tell you, is positivity. A positive attitude, yes, I can, with a smile on your face, masks just about everything. We have people coming to us saying they gave up their volunteering at Jewish Care because they were just asked to make the tea the whole time, and frankly it was really boring, and I don't like being asked to make the tea. Oh, don't you? Well, you wouldn't fit in very well in my organisation or even my home, frankly, because as you can see, I have a teacup right here. The point being that, don't worry about these things. If you have the right attitude, sure, yes, I can make the tea. I'll do whatever it takes. It's so much better. That can-do attitude is absolutely vital. Energy is another one. Employers and organisations who are looking for volunteers, by the way, it's exactly the same, want people who get stuff done. Now, getting stuff done is a technical term. Getting stuff done just means the person who gets in there, yes, they're asked to do something, yes, they do it, yes, they deliver it, it just gets done. If you're the person who says yes, but then just it doesn't happen, and didn't I ask Emma to do that the other week? I don't know if she's done it yet, let me go and find out. Not so good. So positivity, can-do attitude, energy, that throw yourself into everything. And the last thing, and this is playing to a little bit of a Freudian side, is a belief in yourself. Now, sometimes, believe me, I and my organisation and Nikki and her organisation understand only too well how difficult this can be sometimes. This year has hit us all very hard. And even if it wasn't for this year, life can be a real challenge in so many ways. And sometimes we stop believing in ourselves. And it's really, really easy for me to turn around and say, yes, you've got to believe in yourselves. But if you start working towards believing in yourself, you're on a positive pathway, and that is a really good thing to do. And if you are able to start believing in yourself, then others will start believing in you too. And with that positivity and that energy, that's when you will start being, there'll be a role for you in an organisation somewhere. That's how it happens. Transferable.
Emma,
go ahead.
Emma. We need to wrap up this section. So
okay, that's really it, I would say.
Yeah.
The other thing I would say that I just want to say on the skills side is don't be scared of digital skills, which I know for some people is an absolute, skull and crossbones fear thing. Do not be scared of technology. And if you feel your technology skills are not strong enough, do something about that. Don't be scared of it, address it. We can help you at Work Avenue. Many, many other places can help you as well. But you've got to have a baseline of technical skills. Baseline, not necessarily higher, but it must be a baseline. Go ahead.
Right. Thank you very much. So now we're going to hand over. I know there are 2 questions on volunteering in the chat, which we will come back to. So now handing over to Josh, who's going to explain JVN and how you might find volunteering opportunities through us. And then Emma's going to talk about Work Avenue and finding a role. And then we'll have time for the questions that have been asked and for other questions too. So Josh, over to you.
Hi everyone, so I'm going to be talking about how can JVN help. So at JVN we promote volunteering and we connect and support volunteers to enable charities across the Jewish and wider communities to do more. We work with charities to find out what their opportunities and needs are and help them find volunteers for these roles. So on our website we have a variety of volunteering opportunities from a range of charities, and what we've done currently, we've characterised our volunteering opportunities into 3 areas to help people find what they are looking for. So we've got emergency volunteering, so that will be doing deliveries and cooking in this current climate. We've got volunteering from home, which would be telephone befriending, possibly remote roles such as social media, and also skilled volunteering, which are opportunities or needs the charity has, which require a bit more of a specific skill set. New opportunities are constantly added, so keep an eye on our website if you have a look, and maybe check a couple of times a week because new opportunities might just come up. You may find it difficult finding a volunteering role on our website with so many to pick from. So please do contact us by dropping an email or calling in, and we can discuss with you what you're looking for and suggest which opportunities we have would be best for you. So we're here to assist you in finding a volunteering role, so please let us know. By using JVN, we can make sure that communication between the volunteer yourself and the charity doesn't get lost. And we can follow up with the charity if they haven't responded and make sure that that communication isn't lost and help make sure that application process goes through smoothly. Yeah, so it's just about making sure that connection is always there. And like I said, if you ever get in a situation where the charity has responded, just let us know and we can follow up for you. So here we have a couple of opportunities which are live on our website right now. We've taken one from each section which I mentioned before, emergency volunteering. So what we have here is cooking for the vulnerable with JW3. Volunteering from home, we've got for telephone befriending. So that can be done remotely, just at home, and just befriending someone who might be lonely over the phone, and also a more skilled opportunity with a to-go plan looking for a coordinator for a book translations project. So just across these 3, we've got quite a range of opportunities. And if you want to find out more, go on our website, get in contact with us. And yeah, and if you're not too sure what you're looking for, please get in contact and we can discuss and hopefully find something suitable for you. Just stop sharing.
Great, thank you very much, Josh. And over to Emma for how Work Avenue can help, and then we'll have a few minutes for questions.
We help in one of 2 ways. We help people earn a living. People earn a living in one of 2 ways. They either get a job, that's called employment, we all know that, or they become self-employed. And if you're self-employed, you might set up a consultancy business or indeed any other business. So we help people either get work, earn a living through employment, or earn a living through self-employment. We have dedicated teams because the skills, the experiences and the pathways are slightly different. But we have 2 teams of people. We run one-to-one, we have one-to-one appointments. We have a series of training programs, workshops, webinars and events, all of which are designed to assist and narrow the odds in your favor to make it much more likely that you will find paid employment or start up your business. And crucially, we also have a jobs board where we place people in work as well. You've all had an email from us. You all know how to find us, theworkavenue.org.uk. I would suggest, if you haven't already done so, you arrange to meet with one of our employment advisors or our business startup advisors. We can help you with either. All our emails are on our website. So contact me personally if you would like to, and I can arrange an appointment for you. My email is emma@theworkavenue.org.uk. and the emails of my colleagues are all on the website as well. Be in touch with us. The more you engage with us, the easier it is for us to assist you. Like anything, what you put into it is what you get out of it.
Great. Thank you very much, Emma. So we now have time for questions. I'm going to respond first of all to the two in the chat about volunteering. And then if anybody else has questions, if you want to just let us know in the chat, and we'll come to you. So Elena asked, if I have a volunteering job which isn't in the field I want to work in, although I like it, how important is it to pursue looking for a relevant volunteering experience? My response to that would be, it's all about the transferable skills that we've been talking about. That as long as you can outline what those skills are that you gained from your volunteer experience, they'll be easy to put into your CV or into an application form. So I think that's absolutely fine. Just be clear about how it is helping you in your pursuit of a job as well. And Brian asks, should one look for a volunteer?
Sorry, Nikki,
Emma.
before you move on to the next question, can I just add something to that, which is you don't only have to have one volunteering opportunity. If you love doing something, please do it. Please continue with it. Why not? But like you know, I said in my own little piece, I had one opportunity that was good and I enjoyed and it worked for me. Wasn't enough. I found a second thing to do. So there's nothing to preclude you having more than one volunteering opportunity.
Thank you. That's very helpful. Brian asked, should one look for a volunteer position only in my field of expertise, as in he is an accountant? Should I look for a volunteer position only in that field? And I'll respond, and then Emma, please add also. My own view is, it sort of follows on from the previous question, which is I would explore both options and see if charities are often absolutely crying out for people with financial expertise who can help them either as a treasurer or on their finance committee in any way, shape or form. So I would have thought those skills would be very much in demand. But again, if you want to pursue something else that you're passionate about, you're interested in, that will give you also more skills that you can add into your job search. Emma?
Yeah, I would agree with all of that. I think the beauty of the skills that you offer is precisely that, which is everyone, you know, finance related skills are so vital. There are so many things you can do with finance related skills. But I would also say, if, you know, and therefore it shouldn't be difficult to match up volunteering with future employment. That is assuming you wish to continue working in the field that you have worked in hitherto. Now, I can see, I know a little bit about your experience, Brian, and you know, there's a very coherent working pathway, and you may want to continue. But there's nothing to say that, you know, a lot of people, there's some very well publicised, not in a very positive way, albeit, about, you know, changing career from the government at the moment. It's getting a bit of quite negative feedback on social media at the moment. They're sort of career change adverts. But people do look to change career, and we've talked about that a lot at Work Avenue, and we continue to talk about that a lot because it's important. So there's no reason why you shouldn't diversify as well.
Anyone got any other questions? Emma, do you want to share the screen of the contact details, which is the last slide?
Hope I can, yes.
On the presentation. We will follow up with an email anyway, which will put these contact details in. So that's it, the third page. So that gives you our contact details, Emma, Josh's and mine. Also both of our websites and both of our phone numbers. So please feel free to be in touch afterwards. And as I said, we will follow up with an email to give you this information as well. Does anyone have any final questions before we close? No? So thanks, Adele, for your comments in the chat. If anybody else would like to comment on how you found the session, we'd be very happy to hear. Thank you very much, all of you, for joining us. We appreciate, as Emma said in the beginning, that these are really challenging times. and that might well be the case for you if you've joined this seminar. So we wish you well. We wish you that you're safe as well, safe and well, and that things work out soon for you. Volunteering is a really positive thing. It brings so many positive benefits to the individual as well as to the charity. So if this is a potential route for you, it could be something that's really valuable and really beneficial. And I would like to thank Emma. I'm sure Emma would like the last word, but I would like to thank Emma again for sharing your story and your perspective, because even though I've heard it before, I actually find it inspiring each time I hear it. So I hope you've been able to inspire others as well. So thank you very much.
I thank you all as well. It's actually not very easy sharing our own private details, as we all know, but I honestly, you know, I made it happen for myself, and I truly believe that everyone can. We just don't know when, how, and whatever. But the more we engage, the more we do, the more we speak to people, the more we reach out for organisations like JVN that can help us take these positive steps forward closer to where we want to be, the more likely it is that the right opportunity will come up for us when we want it. So the more you put into something, 100%, the more you'll get out of it. So reach out to Nikki, reach out to me, reach out to our organisations. We would love to be able to assist you. And thank you all for joining us this afternoon.
Thank you. Nice to see you. Take care.
All the best. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
You're welcome. If I could ask the last few people, I don't. Hard to know. Leah, can you log off, please? Leah and Brian, could I ask you to leave the call?
I think you're able to do that, Emma.
Yeah, Emma, if
Am
you
I?
and
Yeah.
Remove. There we go.
do you want to stop recording? I don't know how it sounds.
Yeah, good idea.